What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about current events, the news. Um, as of late, it's been more of a forum for us to talk about more esoteric ideas, and of course our movie review. And I know we've been gone for 2 weeks for circumstances beyond our controls. So we'll be finishing out the Robert Mitchum month, Mitchum May, with a back to back, or not maybe not back to back, but a double feature,
Yeah.
of the movies Friends of Eddie Coyle and Out of the Past, of course, starring the titular, Robert Mitchum himself.
Yeah, and both of them are really great movies and very different movies in a lot of ways. From two very different eras.
Yes. And as ever, to help me co-pilot this thing is the homeboy Rob.
Yo, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah, I know we were gone for 2 weeks, but again, circumstances far beyond our control. 2 weeks ago, Robert was sick, and and I believe was it a sore throat? Was it?
Yeah, I had no voice whatsoever,
right.
And so unless you want to hear me,
so that would impede his ability to speak. And then actually a week after that, I got sick with a case of bronchitis and a hacking cough. So that would have impeded the quality of the stream, because I'd have to take moments to stop and almost hawk up a lung. So that's why we were gone for the 2 weeks. I hope you guys didn't miss us too much.
Andy, I missed you, so
of course, and I missed you as well.
Well, hey, that's always nice. I haven't been threatened to be replaced yet, so that's great.
I know, right? You're still in the bubble, man. You're still in the bubble.
I'm still in the bubble. Oh, well, that keeps me on my toes.
You are perennially on the bubble. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what brought about your sickness, but I know exactly what brought about my sickness, and that was a combination of factors. One, just kind of overexerting myself, constantly. It's been, just a lot of things that I'm dealing with right now. Helping out at my friend's business, and then also helping out, volunteering at church and various activities. Not necessarily related to my volunteerism, but just kind of being part of a community, and then also, again, kind of in that vein of being part of a community, I took some kids and kids I mean just basically anyone younger than me, fishing from my church, and I was literally dad that weekend, and I think my sickness was triggered by stress because it seemed like it was a big group too. There was I think 8 people I went with.
Boy.
And every 5 minutes, another person was saying "Oh, my line is stuck," or "This, why isn't this working?" Or so I was literally running around making putting out little fires here and there, and I just think just the stress of it all, just it weakened my immune system, and then and it allowed me to succumb to sickness. Although I will say that I am glad that it wasn't a full-on sickness, because usually when I tend to get sick, few and far between. There's huge gaps. There's been huge gaps, the times that I do get sick, and so when I actually do finally get sick, it hits me hard, and
it puts you down. Yeah.
Yeah, it puts me down. But this time it didn't hit so hard, and I was able to get over it within a few days.
That's good. That's good.
I basically took the whole last week off, just recuperating, making sure that I allowed my body the time to heal itself, and it did, and I was mostly over it within 3 days, and then the subsequent because I got sick on Saturday into Sunday, and then yeah, I was mostly healed up by Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I just took the time to fully heal, and then now I have like kind of like a transient, lingering cough.
Yeah, I'm. It was kind of the same thing for me. Just kind of not getting enough sleep because I've been trying to get a lot of stuff done at the house, and kind of doing a few other work and everything else. And I was like, I didn't like fully like succumb to like being really sick, but I was starting to lose my voice, and so it was just like better for me to just rest
So you're
up.
probably getting laryngitis.
Yeah, so I was making sure I had like a bunch of tea, and that certainly helped. And by about Thursday, I was pretty much like good to go, and yeah, it ended up being all right. It just I figured you didn't want me talking like this the entire time. It's like during the podcast.
Yeah, I remember when I was helping my friend at the LA Auto Show last November. Yeah, I actually succumbed to some laryngitis as well because just them. I mean, yeah, I essentially talk for a living because I do this.
Yeah.
And then, but this is just like every week. But during the time of the LA Auto Show, I was like talking for, I was talking for like, I was working like maybe like 8 hours, 8 hour shifts and stuff. And I was like, and just talking to people and yeah. So like I did get laryngitis, but luckily for that, I just chomped down on a huge clove of garlic and just let that sucker burn my throat, and then the next day I was like fine.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, because I got like the painful laryngitis where like it like hurt to swallow.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, and so I thought like, so I was drinking tea and everything, and trying to soothe it, but it wasn't working. So I was like, all right, no, like time for the nuclear option. And that my nuclear option is a clove of garlic, which I do swear by.
Yeah, let's burn this sucker out.
Yeah, and then, like it was it was really because like I found like the fattest, like juiciest looking clove, and I just like chomped down on it, and I just let the juice like hit my my vocal cords, and like it was like burning. Like
I didn't know laryngitis was a vampire name.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know it was a vampire disease. But yeah, I mean, garlic is an amazing. What is it? It's a bulb.
It is a magical like herb.
Yeah.
Not only does it give great flavor, but it's like has healing properties. Yeah, it's crazy. Healing properties.
Yeah, I remember the first time I told my mom, and then the first time she got sick, and she took the remedy. She now she tells all her friends like, oh, my son told me about garlic. It's amazing. And even some of my friends they tell me like whenever they get sick it's like yeah I just chomp on a clove of garlic and boom I'm back at it.
Yeah, I think next time my has that issue, I'm gonna tell her to do that same thing because was it a few months ago she had that problem, and so I was like, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, like I'm gonna make a mental note. It's like clove of garlic.
Yeah, I mean some of my friends they're not as hardcore as me, so they'll what they would do is they told me they would mince it and then mix it with like a tablespoon of honey.
Oh, that's sissies.
I know, but apparently it still works for them. And I mean, honey too is a pretty magical
yeah. I always
as well.
I like what I used is I had this like ginger tea that I threw a little bit of like honey into, and that helped a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my friends even though they still nerf it by mixing in some honey, they still swear by it too. So I was like, okay.
So if because my wife, she's not very hardcore, so
that's why I offered this this alternative solution because I know your wife.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll try that option for next time she has that problem.
Yeah. And actually, it wasn't that my tale of sickness doesn't end there because actually yesterday on Monday, I kind of woke up and I was feeling like this. I had this weird like stomach thing too, where it's like I was like feeling kind of nauseated and um, I just had an upset stomach. Um, so yeah, but after some rest and some Pepto Bismol and of course the soothing bowl of rice porridge. I bounced back yet again.
Yeah, rice porridge. That it doesn't taste great, but like it does help.
Yeah, I mean, it's just porridge. It's just like it's like mush, and my parents like they put in like the what is it the pine nuts, and then you sprinkle a little salt in it. It's just like the best thing ever when I kind of have an upset stomach.
Yeah.
It's like I know it's very bland, but it's like that's like the point.
Yeah, that's the idea because you want to kind of help deal with whatever's going on in there, and just having something like bland and like nothing that it's not like acidic or anything like that. It just kind of helps to soothe everything, and
mm-hmm.
yeah, it does help you feel better.
Yeah.
Well, man, you were going through a lot. I was going through a lot. Anything else happened to you like over the course of the past few weeks?
Um.
Anything exciting?
Exciting. I mean, I got to see family members that hadn't seen in a while. My niece, his birthday was this past weekend, along with her grandfathers, my uncle. And so we celebrated and like the entire family, well, at least mostly the entire family, or not mostly. Mostly the entire family did get together, including my cousin, who lives out in North Carolina. His family came into town, and I got to see him and his wife and then their kids. And it was, it's been a while since I actually seen them, so it was really nice. And this is my cousin who was in the Navy, and like I guess now he's officially retired now.
Oh, wow, that's big.
Yeah, now he's just kind of living off his benefits and things like that, and just being dad now.
Yeah, and it's like you.
Yeah, he was like telling me like now like yeah, because both of his daughters, my nieces, they're on the tennis team, and he's like the coach, for the tennis team for the school. So
Yeah.
so he's now like in dad mode. So that's always nice.
Yeah, that's great, man. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I
and
know
also
that's.
it turns out like he's been watching or he's been giving us views. I wouldn't because he said like he's not that he's been watching our live streams, but he does give us views.
Hey, that's awesome. Cool.
So
That's good.
yeah,
Thank you.
because he told me that he was watching, and then I was like, oh, like you have any like constructive criticism for us? And he's like, no, I don't really pay attention to what you say, but I just have it on. I was like, oh, great,
Hey,
thanks.
Well, that works too.
Thanks. I mean, yeah, I'm sure everyone, especially when you're first starting out, I'm sure all content creators do this, but sometimes I'll go onto my private YouTube account, and I'll just have the this the the on demand the archive of this stream playing in the background just to kind of bump up the numbers a bit.
Hey, but at least we're not paying somebody to do it, like
right,
these other channels do.
I know it's family, so it's like
hey,
they're kind of obligated to, but like they're like the best kinds of like bot farms.
Hey, you know what? I still appreciate it. Yeah, no matter what. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like we like on the back end, we do. I mean, full transparency, we don't get that many live viewers or concurrent live viewers.
Yeah,
but on the back end, there we do get views, and maybe
bad,
that's due to my cousin, but whatever.
Yeah, but like on the back end, I was looking at like some of our views, I was like, it's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly like when I looked at the numbers, like, wow, that's it's we're slowly trending upward,
Yeah.
kind of like, and that's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but there's like peaks and valleys. Like, during the weekend, yeah, we get like a huge influx of viewers, and then during the week, not so much. But
it's all right.
it's all right.
What should we call it? Yeah, my so like 2 weeks ago, before I got sick, I actually went to my first minor league baseball game. I went with my wife and friend of the channel, Dan the Man, and we went to the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes Stadium,
Mm-hmm.
which is the single A affiliate for the Dodgers. And let me tell you what, I had a great time. And pretty much for $20, I was sitting pretty much right in the front row of for the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a small little stadium. It's only about like 2,000 seats.
Mm-hmm.
The concessions were not too much. So you got. I think I ended up eating like 6 hot dogs. It was
Oh, that's a lot of hot dogs, though.
yeah, an insane amount, insane amount of hot dogs. The beer was like not too expensive. And it's kind of funny, like no one was buying Bud Light at all. No, actually, the big seller was the mango carts, like
Oh,
whatever.
nice. Yeah,
Well,
golden
yeah,
golden something.
Golden Road Brewery.
Right.
They had a bunch of like varieties of their stuff there, so a lot of people were buying the tall cans of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I do love me a mango cart.
Dude, those mango carts are insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, like they had a bunch of other flavors I hadn't even heard of that I didn't know they had. I was like, I want to try that. That looks really good. So I might have to do some scouring for their beers and see what they get. Because mostly I just see the mango cart because I think that's like their staple, like that's their big seller.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be curious to try some of their other flavors.
Mm. Yeah, that'd be cool.
So I did that. I got a new hat. I got my Rancho Cucamonga Quakes hat. That was actually probably the most expensive thing I bought. This is about the same price as like I would have to pay for like a regular MLB hat.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else was fairly inexpensive. Definitely cheaper than going to Dodger Stadium, which has gotten so insanely expensive. Like that's
Right.
part of the reason why I don't go to many games anymore.
Mm.
It's too fucking expensive.
Yeah. But also, with the recent controversies.
I kind of don't want to go either. That's the
Yeah,
other thing. I still like baseball a lot. Like it's my
right.
it's
It's just
one of
like
my
right
favorites.
now, it's just like this weird, maybe not weird, but this sudden increase in frequency of attacks. I would say, particularly against Christianity. It's just very jarring.
And like here's the thing. I don't even need them to be pro Christianity. I prefer them to just like I just
Right.
want to watch the
Yeah.
fucking.
Just like
I don't.
I like if they're not gonna have like the the cross dressers or whatever, then don't then just equally don't have the faith based stuff either. Just stay out of it entirely.
Here, if for now, this is me because as a sports fan, I don't need the gimmicks. I don't need the hoopla and like all that.
Mm-hmm.
What all I care about when I go to a sporting event, I want to come in. I'm gonna grab some food. I'm gonna have a beer or two or three or however many, and then I'm gonna be in my seat. I'm gonna watch the game because I enjoy the game. I don't need the extra stuff.
Right.
And it's the same thing that goes for like auto racing, hockey, baseball. I don't need any of that other stuff. I just want to watch the game. That's what I came there to watch the game. I think if I'm going there for all this other stuff, then why am I there? I can do that other stuff for cheaper somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Right.
would
You're going
I?
there for the experience. You're there for the communal aspect of watching a game with other fans. Um,
Exactly.
but then like
And
now
that,
then now you're trying to what what's the word I'm looking for? You're trying to
I think they're trying to. I think this other stuff. I think they think it's a gimmick to try to gain more fans.
okay, yeah,
But
let's go with that.
but
Yeah.
I think that what the problem is though is that most of those people don't give a shit about the sport anyways, and they're probably not going to be fans. Um, the reason why like I became a fan is because as I learned, it was like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool, and you start to learn more about it. And I know for kids, like being able to like, wow, like I really liked how that player played. Oh, and now he talked to me, cool, and he signed my baseball. That's something you make a fan that way. That's the way you make fans. Nowadays there's also like a lot of interaction on like social media too. That's also kind of a way in the 21st century, which is kind of horrible to think about. But that's another way too, where like you do have more access to the players or the race car drivers, what have you.
For the athletes.
Yeah, but I think if yes, it is a money making venture too, as well. Um, and as these contracts and prices of stuff keep going up and up and up, they're trying to find ways to it's kind of like this weird Ponzi scheme. It's like you have to kind of keep feeding the beast
Right.
in a sense to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't need all that. I just want to come to watch the game. I don't need all
Well,
the
yeah.
the pride nights and the this night and the what have you, and I don't need all that shit. I just
Well, we
want to
weren't
watch.
necessarily planning on talking about it, but we'll just dip our toe really fast because we got a bunch of stuff that we have to
Yeah.
look through. But like this like with the whole like Bud boycott and now Target and now like all these other companies that are coming out and basically shooting themselves in the foot because like these companies aren't stupid, the CEOs aren't stupid. Like people saying like, oh, how stupid are these execs that they're doing this thing? They're not stupid. Um,
No, they're not.
they're not stupid, but what they are doing is trying to hide, and what they're trying to hide is the damage that was done. That happened like 2-3 years ago, which was the shutdown of our economy. And so
Oh, you
now,
think do you think
this
that's
is
why this is going?
this really is a bullwhip effect, where like during the lockdowns and everything, when they started when they shut down everything and they started pumping artificially pumping the economy with funny money, you had this rise, so it was like going up, but then now like we're at the last part where the decline, and so so because of all the funny money being no longer being pumped into the system, like the value of the company is going down because of the supply chain issues and because of loss of employees and particularly because of all the summer of love riot and stuff, and scaring businesses away, and a lot of like those big box stores closing their doors because of the increased violence or damage and also theft. That's what I think they're doing, is that they're doing all of this unpopular pride stuff to hide the and like to hide the fact that they were going to lose money regardless, but then now they have this other reason to blame for the the,
So
the, the loss of value.
they're essentially creating a scapegoat. Then that's what
Exactly, exactly. Because
that's
I mean,
interesting.
if it'd be one thing if Bud Light was the only company to do this and then lose money and like, oh, we're stupid, we have to reverse course and and try to get our fan base our target demo back, but then then you have Miller come out with their
Yeah.
stupid woke ad, and then you have Target come out with their stupid pride, satanic, what bullshit. And I didn't watch the video, but I heard Chick-fil-A is getting Bud Lit, um,
Yeah, it's Jesus.
as it were, and so so it's like, why is all these people, you could, and yeah, you can maybe make the claim about like all BlackRock and all these investment houses, like, are requiring this stupid,
Which is a
like,
factor. Which is a factor.
which is a factor. I'm not going to lie about that. But also, one of the, but you can't deny that, um, that the harm that the lockdowns had on our economy. Like, we completely, uh, what's that thing when you just like, we basically just, basically turned off the engine to our
Yeah,
economy, while we
for
were
like
driving.
almost 2 years.
Yeah, for 3 years. And so, like, there's like, to think that there's not going to be any repercussions from that, that's just ludicrous. But again, they can't ever admit that the damage is from that, and so that's why they are intentionally shooting themselves in the foot to make it to, because they already knew that they were going to lose this money. That
Mm-hmm.
they knew they were going to lose the stock value.
Yeah, that's
So
actually an interesting take that I'd never considered. It's like, yeah, that it does make a sense. Like, because like you said, these guys are not stupid.
mhm,
There's a reason why they're the CEO or whatever. It's just
mhm.
more of, for me, I always assumed it's just because this is they really believe in this stuff, and it's just these are like these companies are more powerful than some countries have ever been, and they are forcefully, because you have like all these type of people that have taken charge of these companies, and hell or high water, they're going to push their agenda whether you like it or not,
Mhm.
unless to the point where like they don't even care if it costs them uh, money at the beginning,
Mhm.
because eventually they think that this is the winning card.
Right. I mean, and why do you think, like, because again, like the whole, like, alphabet soup group, like, they're less than 1% of the American population, and
Yeah.
yet they're constantly being touted. The message is constantly being thrown into people's faces, and people are pushing back against it, and like and vocally, not just like kind of passively, where like they stop going to buying the product, or going to see the movie or whatever. People like these companies know that this type of messaging is not popular, and yet they still do it. And it's because they don't care about the money that they would get from the consumer. They're more interested in getting the money from the investor.
Right. Right.
And so that's why they seemingly go against, I mean, what is it? Think about the Gillette and like their whole like toxic masculinity. Uh,
Yeah, which is
uh,
essentially like, so essentially you're shitting on the sole people that
yeah,
buy
the
your
the, the
fucking product.
target you're shitting on the target demo, and expecting them to still buy your product. No, anyone with eyes to see and ears to hear, they understand. Like, Gillette is no longer concerned about whether or not they are appealing to their target demographic. They're more concerned about, um, pleasing their investors,
Yeah.
or like the financial houses that help fund their companies, like invest into their companies.
Yeah. It's
So that's what it is. And I mean, yeah, like BlackRock and Vanguard and all of like these investment houses. Um, it's like Game of Thrones, dude. All we call them like investment houses, and like what do they? They had like the House of Stark and the House of Targaryen. I mean, and I never even watched Game of Thrones, but I understand the basic concept, and I know like that show is all about politics, and like making moves against other
yeah.
houses and factions, and making alliances, and it's the same thing. It's real life Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I think you nail it. It's kind of feel like you're swimming upstream all the time, because when you really think about it, it's like man, what can I do as one person? Because it just seems like the harder like you dig,
Mm-hmm.
it just like you come up against like this like ice wall that you or this like the ground is frozen. You can't dig anymore. To
Right.
like kind
Yeah.
of
I mean, yeah. It's like it feels like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
yeah, it's I can see like where there's a lot of people that just they get burned out, especially where if we'd all work together to kind of go against a lot of this um, all these shenanigans,
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot more power than we think, but because we've been scared into submission, we kind of give into a lot of this stuff, which is
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
unfortunate.
and it's like you really have to have an abundance mindset because like even with like the whole like supposed like housing shortage, that's all artificial, all right?
Yeah,
Because what is it? It's like these financial houses, like again, BlackRock, Vanguard, so and so. They're buying up as many single family houses as possible, and basically not having them on the market. So that artificially causes a housing shortage.
yeah. See, that should be illegal.
Yes, very. And so yeah, so like you have to have an abundance mindset, and you also have you just can't have to find ways around things. I mean, I don't typically shop at Target, so it's not really a problem for me. But then, like then you have like the thing about, oh, it's like, well, there's only 7 companies that run everything, so it's like you think you have a choice, but you don't because you're still like feeding into like the beast or whatever. But it's all a trade off. You just have to you just have to what is it? It's a trade off. So you have to see like which trade offs you're willing to make and which trade offs you're not willing to make.
So
And
what you're telling me is that everything's essentially going to become Taco Bell, right? Like in
yes, exactly. Like yes, like it's yeah. It's so funny because like I mean we're not the first ones to do it, but like now it's like um, a lot more people are like finding that movie Demolition Man, and like
yeah,
it's like, oh my god, it's like this is happening right now. Like even though we did this like 3 years ago.
dude, I know it's so funny. Like, this is one of the other things that I was doing while we were on break is I have been watching like other people's like movie reviews on stuff, and it's like, oh, they covered Demolition Man. Let me take a look at this. And it's like, okay, so essentially like the the all the things that we talked about in that movie as far as like some of the social commentary, it's like yeah, like where the hell have you guys been? And it's like, or same thing with like Mad Max. There was another one where it's like I felt vindicated. I was like, see, I knew like we're not crazy. The movie's not good. It can't be the apocalypse if there's no ice cream.
Right. It's because I know what you're because what is it you content creator Mr. Reagan, and then also like former I forget what his position was in the
I
administration,
think it
but
was a White House advisor
okay, yeah,
to
he was special like counsel or advisor to President Trump. But Sebastian Gorka and Mr. Reagan, have
both guys I like a lot. They're great.
combined forces, yeah, and then they started reviewing movies, and then again, and yeah, just as Robert said, like they reviewed Mad Max, and like yeah, they also thought it was a shit movie, and I think it was Gorka who pointed out like, oh, like how can it be an apocalypse with with the ice cream parlor? It's like
Yeah,
exactly you can't. It's not dystopia if there's ice cream.
we're gonna have to trademark cinematic archaeology because
I know,
if
right? As
someone
soon as
starts
someone
saying that,
utters those words, yeah, and even I noticed that a little bit because um, what is it? Another content creator, Doomcock. He does a lot of like entertainment stuff, but he has a live stream. And then I remember I caught it one Friday or something, and then he towards the tail end of the stream, he also had a movie review, and he also did a movie that we did.
It's I love to see it. It's like, oh yeah, it's like we got it, buddy. We did it. I mean, eventually we're people with these movie reviews, which are great. I like to see people doing it, and I like to see people's different takes on things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny. It's like, we did that already.
Yeah, and it was like that. It was that John Wayne movie with Maureen O'Hara.
The Quiet Man.
Yeah, The Quiet Man. It was just like I was like so tripped out because like it's not like this is like one of John Wayne's more well-known works, and so it's just like the fact that they were reviewing this movie, I was just like, whoa.
We did that for
are we affecting reality?
I think we are, Andy.
I mean, not not to get too big for our britches or nothing, but like one of the hallmarks of good content creation is when people start biting you, and taking your bits. And I mean, even a podcast that I've been watching for like forever, who's only been doing like kind of like news commentary and some analysis. Like even then they started to do a movie review they started a movie review 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a good palate cleanser, like, to be honest. Like, because sometimes
I mean, that's what we're doing too. We're doing news and commentary or whatever, but it's like, and then like we start talking about movies that we liked, and just like it just seemed natural. And again, like you were saying, it's a good palate cleanser to like kind of like the shittiness of like the state of the world, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like Andy. Pretty much what you're telling me is that we're the vanguard. Like we're breaking through the walls, and everyone's just following us.
Right? People are biting off of us, and that's when you know that you're doing something good.
Yeah. Oh man. Actually, it's just the other person I've been kind of like listening to a lot. Just not necessarily on like some of the news stuff, but like on more of his like movie stuff and like just on culture stuff in general is Razor Fist. And he has some of the stuff he talked about. I was like, oh man, like I
still gotta watch that video you sent me.
Yeah, there was like on his take on like westerns, which I do agree with. I was like, and it's funny, like the one that he had is his like number one. I actually had just recently watched before I saw that. He thinks that The Great Silence that's his favorite western, and it's really fucking good. It is. It's the same director who did the original Django, and yeah, it's very, very good. It's a dark fucking movie too. But it's great. But yeah, that's I have been watching some other stuff that I think will be interesting for like some topics down the road. But we'll save that for another week because those will last. I have them written down, so we'll have some topics for the next few weeks to work off of if necessary. Yeah, I got some stuff based off of like watching the Dallas Buyers Club. Enemy of the State, which because I've been watching a lot of movies with my wife, and I've been getting.
I was gonna suggest that movie. Probably. I don't know exactly where we would fit it in, but I do.
So if you, I did send you a list of. I'm thinking of, since December is a short month, I thought we could do a government conspiracies month, and so I have The Conversation, Blowout, and Enemy of the State for potential choices for December.
Okay.
But yeah, it was funny when I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah, the stuff that's happening in this movie, the government is doing this currently and way worse.
Yeah, or like they've admitted to like 15% of the stuff that they're doing in that movie.
Yeah, and I also told her, like, have you ever wondered why when you're talking, like, you're not even on your phone or like searching on the internet, but you're talking to your friends about like, I kind of want to buy, like, I need to get like an air fryer, and then all of a sudden, all you get is air fryer.
Right, exactly. Your social media is like lousy with advertisements for air fryers.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah, why does that happen? It's like, because they're spying on you, honey. It's like, get the fuck out of here. That's why you get a VPN. Yes.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, and people worried about like, oh, like yeah, the you know the unblinking eye of the camera. It's like what's more damning is the audio. So if you're like, it doesn't matter like what you know what they capture you visually doing. It's like what you say.
Yeah, it's crazy shit like that. It's like, oh man, yeah. So it freaked her out when I told her about that. Um, and then yeah, I ended up watching the Dallas Buyers Club, and I think that movie says more than I think they were. I don't know if the writers and the director were trying to go for the message that comes from that movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a pretty much a damning
It's an
indictment
indictment.
the NIH and everything
Mm-hmm.
and everything. It's an interesting movie that
Well, yeah, because the area in which that movie takes place is about you know like the late to early '90s. You know the whole AIDS epidemic, and then you know there's miraculously there's still you know some alphabet people from that time who absolutely despise Anthony Fauci
yeah
for
that so that
his role in AZT and you know just you know the gay genocide as it were,
yeah so yeah I watched that so
which I
we'll
have
talk
mixed
about like
feelings about.
yeah I so we'll talk about that another time and then
Okay.
I've been getting my wife into I finally got her like really set into the 70s with some films we watched I got her to watch Rocky for the first time, and she ended up loving it. So we've been doing a Rocky marathon again. So I'm once again steeped in a marathon. And as we finished 4 today,
Mhm.
and you'll be happy to know that 3 so far is her favorite.
Nice.
So yeah, so one thing you'll enjoy with my wife is that she enjoyed 3 the most.
Okay, sure. Okay, I mean, all right. I guess that we can have one thing in common.
Exactly. Hey, you gotta have one thing in
All
common.
right.
But yeah,
Anyways,
but let's get into our
yeah. Well, let's get
what
into the
else?
first of the two movie reviews.
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, uh, you want to do which one do you want to do first?
Friends of Eddie Coyle. Let's hop into that.
All right. I had a feeling you might say that. All right. So yeah, we'll let me hit you all with the synopsis and we'll get going. Uh, and again, this is Friends of Eddie Coyle, starring Robert Mitchum. Oh, and Peter Boyle.
Yeah.
Of Young Frankenstein, and probably more popularly, he was Frank from Everyone Loves Raymond.
He's also in Taxi Driver too.
Oh, he is.
He was
That's
the
right.
wizard.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Here's
There's
the.
actually he was big in the 70s. Like he's a
Yeah,
very
yeah. He was that's. He came up during that time.
yeah.
All right. Here's the synopsis for Friends of Eddie Coyle. Aging Boston gun runner Eddie Coyle is looking at several years of jail time for a holdup if he doesn't funnel information to Dave Foley, an ATF agent. Eddie buys some guns from another gun runner, Jackie Brown, then gives up. Uh, then gives him up to Foley. But the agent isn't satisfied. Conflicted, Eddie decides to also give up the gang of bank robbers he's been supplying, only to find out that Foley already knows about them, and the mob believes Eddie snitched. Yeah, this movie came out in 1973. What is it? Directed by Peter Yates.
What did you? Was this your first time coming to this film, Andy?
Yes, this is the first time watching this movie.
Yeah. What did you think about it? Like, how? Because this is a little bit of a tough film. Like I know the first time I watched it, I was like, it didn't register very well. But on this next go around with it, like as we're setting up for the review, I started to appreciate it a lot more and liked what it was trying to do.
I understood what they're trying to do. I don't think they necessarily executed uh, properly, but I would say that I do appreciate what they were trying to do.
Well, one thing that is kind of different about this, this is actually, well, when it comes to movies, like this is actually the prototype of like the working man gangster film. So like
Right.
this film is before Goodfellas and Donnie Brasco, right?
Mm,
Like this is kind of that type of movie because like with The Godfather and like some of those other like high level gangster films, it's about like the top level guys,
right. Yeah.
royalty.
Like movies like The Godfather. They're talking more about the nobility,
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
underworld. Or as opposed to Goodfellas and this movie and uh, Donnie Brasco, they're talking more about like the blue collar guys, the one that that ones that had to carry iron with them, as it were, you know, and
Right.
did work, got their hands dirty.
This is also why I think this film is so different. Is it's very fast moving and it's very like the way that the dialogue goes is very different and you're having to figure out like you're kind of thrust into this life into this story and you have to figure out through the dialogue who's screwing who over, who's doing what, and it moves very quickly, and if you're not
Hmm.
paying attention you lose track of where you are.
Right.
And that's actually exactly because this is based off of a book of the same title, and it's actually very very close to the dialogue in the book.
Hmm.
It's they didn't really have to change a whole lot around as far as the screenplay went
Hmm.
because the book almost acts like a screenplay in a lot of ways.
I see.
So
Hmm.
that's something that was um, pretty easy as far as and then you just cast the actors, and anytime Robert Mitchum is in something, he's gonna elevate it. And the title is extremely ironic because Eddie Coyle has no friends.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it's
Because he sells them out, and then he doesn't act quickly enough, and then he gets blamed for
yeah, and then
it.
but then also kind of like Goodfellas and like Donnie Brasco is like these lower level guys, and a lot of the mob, like when we look to The Godfather, that's set like in the back. It's like the mob is forming, and like there's more of a romantic way of viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas as you move further, like where you get into like the era that this film is set in, where like like the 70s and later on, uh, it seems like the a lot of the mobsters are turning on each other and like selling each other out,
Right.
and it's like
Well, yeah,
kind of
because
who had
the full and you're right in that if you're not paying close attention, you could kind of like lose yourself or lose your place, and not understand what's going on. Again, like the Foley character, I initially thought that he was like a more higher up within like the organization,
yeah
but then it turns out that he's actually a Fed, um,
yeah. He
and
yeah, so he's a Fed that's going after the this mob, the Boston, the was it the Irish Mafia in Boston,
mm,
and uh, he's getting information from Peter Boyle's character about like, oh,
yeah,
there's this stuff
or
going.
yeah, or you either he's part of the organization or he's like a dirty cop, but which turns out not to be the case.
He's a dick. He's not like he is not a good character at all. Like I don't like him.
Right, but yeah, and that's probably that's probably where the confusion for me was, because initially, yeah, I thought he was like some representative of like the higher ups within like the organization,
Right.
or and then when it was more clear that he was a Fed, I thought he was a dirty Fed, like he was like someone on the take. He was an informant for the mob, for the organization.
But yeah, so like
But
Foley,
like you were saying, like he's just a dick.
yeah, he's a dick, and so you have uh was it what's Peter Boyle's character's name in the film?
Hold on, let me look it up real
It's
fast. I have it.
uh it's Dylan.
Yeah,
He
Dylan.
yeah, Dylan. He's kind of like he's not like one of the bosses, but like he's kind of like the next level above.
Yeah, he's not a capo, but
Well, I don't know.
he's management.
Yeah.
He doesn't
And
call the shots, but he manages all of like the street level guys.
yeah. Uh, so you have him. He's being worked over, like, or I don't know. Maybe he's willingly giving information over to Foley because maybe he sees like he's thinking of his own survival, and
Mm-hmm.
so by being because Foley kind of lets Dylan do what he wants, and he doesn't give him a lot of trouble because he's feeding him other people.
Right, bigger
Um,
fish. He's giving them bigger
yeah,
fish.
exactly. So, and you have Eddie Coyle, who is there was a previous job that he had done that had gotten botched, and so he's looking at potential prison time, and he's like, I can't, I'm too old, I can't do that anymore, and so he ends up, and so Foley uses Eddie Coyle to like maybe potentially get some info on some other guys, and he ends up deciding to like, okay, fine, I'll help you out, and I'll give you this this who because we also see there's a group of bank robbers that are being the guns that are being given to them. Eddie Coyle is feeding them those guns,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have Foley who is trying to go after the guy that's supplying the guns and also trying to go after the bank robbers.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie Coyle is kind of the connection between both those parties.
Right.
And that's that's kind of like what the movie is. It's about like Eddie Coyle moving between both those groups
Mm-hmm.
and being he's somewhat resisting helping the cops, but he's like, hey, can you help me with this thing, and like can I just go somewhere and like kind of have my identity change if I help give you these people. And Foley's like, yeah, sure, I'll see what I can do. And he essentially screws Eddie Coyle over because all the time Dylan is feeding him not only the same information but more information, and so he becomes kind of Eddie Coyle pretty much becomes useless.
Right. He's redundant. He's redundant.
Yeah, and that also and since Dylan is playing both sides as well, he ends up essentially assassinating Eddie Coyle, and it's like that was and the cop knew exactly what happened, and it was more of like he didn't care. He's like, oh, and there's that whole idea, like the speech that Dylan gives about the pigeons, and it's like, yeah, which is so like just fucked up, and that's the way they leave it. It's just like, yeah, it's like kind of like who gives a shit that he died? It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. And then they split ways. It's like that is a dark way to end a movie.
Yeah.
And they just
Yeah,
toss this
absolutely.
guy away.
Yeah, because like just like to lower a man's worth to that of a pigeon. It's just it's just like, oh yeah, there's 100 different kinds of pigeons. It's like, is anyone really gonna miss a particular one?
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of, and I do have to say I like the this is actually one of the first like really I heard this is actually one of the first like kind of big movies that was filmed in Boston. that really kind of showed the underbelly of Boston. Now we have so many of those films like The Town and
or Departed.
Good Will Hunting, places like that. All these like Boston movies and. But here, like, it wasn't like the super obnoxious Boston accent type of films, and
Like the Southie accent.
yeah, it's like I mean, you catch a little bit of it, but like not. It's more subdued. From everything I've heard from people who talk about this movie and people like, yeah, I'm from Boston, and yeah, people don't all talk like that. It's a lot. The way that most of the people from that town talk are like the friends of Eddie Coyle, and they feel like this film in a weird way is kind of the best representation of Boston. This is kind of how it is. It's dark, and and this is how people talk.
Yeah. The sun's not always out.
I also love that they filmed in like Boston Garden. They're watching the Bruins game.
Yeah.
God, that's. I mean, they're just like
Was this before that there was a regulation for them to wear helmets?
Yeah, so that didn't come about. The helmet regulation didn't come about, I think, until like the late 70s, like into the 80s. Actually, no, I think it was the 80s where they started to like do that. And there was for a long time a bunch of players who it was kind of grandfathered in. Like after a certain point, if you came into the league after this point, you had to wear a helmet. But if you were before that time, you could choose whether to wear one or not.
Really? Why would they?
Famously, Gordie Howe of Detroit Red Wings fame, he was the last player to never wear a helmet. Like he just and up until like the last game he played, he never wore a helmet. It's the same thing with the goalie face masks. They didn't wear a lot up until like a certain point. They didn't wear the face masks, and then after a certain time, it just became smart to wear one, and then it got regulated in. But at that time, you didn't really have to wear one if you didn't want to, which is fucking insane.
Hardcore.
Yeah, that era of hockey, let me tell you, those guys are tough. Tough. Yeah, I mean, hockey it's an interesting sport, but yeah, that was accurate. That's because I think they were at a real game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they did. I wouldn't be surprised if they guerrilla style. They guerrilla shot that scene where like it's like they didn't necessarily have the permission to film, but like they just did it anyways.
I think with it being such a Boston film, I mean you can't like you have to go to a Bruins game,
right?
And it's the middle of winter, or it's getting close to being like winter, so it's hockey season, and it's not a super high budget film. Like they didn't make their money back, but I think it was like $3 million was the budget, which is not a ton of money for at that time.
Yeah, even back then, yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just an interesting film. I there's a lot of things that I like about it. I understand it better now that I've kind of done some more like research on it. But I can see like why this was not a super popular film. But I kind of like the idea that this film kind of set the precedent for like Goodfellas and Donnie Brasco, two other films that we've talked about that I would say that we both like more than this film. But I don't think you get those films without this one.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Do you have any other thoughts about it? Like, did you like the actors that were in it?
I did. What is it? Alex Rocco's in this movie, and he goes on to what is it? Godfather, and plays Mo Green. I didn't realize this, but Mo Green's character is based off of Bugsy Siegel.
That's right. Oh, okay. Here's the other crazy thing about this movie. So Alex Rocco grew up in Boston. He's from the town, and he actually was not like he wasn't like a big time guy, but he was in like in with these guys, the Irish mob
Irish
that he's
mob, yeah.
portraying in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And when they and obviously he left that life and became an actor because after I think he had like a stint in jail or something like that. He's like, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna go to Hollywood and become an actor. It's safer. Um, and when they cast Robert Mitchum, he actually wanted to meet with like these high level Irish gangsters, and he's like, and he was asking Alex Rocco, "Hey, can you introduce me to this?" Like, and everyone's saying like, "Don't the director," and everyone's like, "Don't do that. Like, it's a bad idea." But Alex Rocco did get him, and he's like, "Hey, I can't get you with this guy, but here you can talk to this guy who's another kind of semi high up guy,"
Mm-hmm.
and they did kind of talk with these gangsters and to kind of learn the role a little bit and to kind of understand like some of the lingo and all that. And it's like that's Robert Mitchum does not give a fuck. He will do. That's kind of the reason why I like him so much is he just doesn't care. Like he's just gonna do what he can for the role, and he just kind of has a fuck it attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like from Risky Business? Like sometimes you just have to say, "Who gives a fuck?"
Yeah. Oh, whoa. Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah,
So this movie, yeah. So this movie came out after the Godfather.
yes. Because
Yeah,
what?
because this
Godfather.
came out because this one came out in '73 and Godfather came out in
Yeah.
'72.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So picking up a guy like Alex Rocco and obviously Robert Mitchum he's an aging star, but he's still a star. And Peter Boyle had
Yeah, he's still a known name by that time. So.
yeah. Um, but he's on his way up, and like I said, it's. I like the film. There are films that I like that are in kind of in the same genre that I like more.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right, this is kind of like first draft of kind of like the blue collar gangster movie.
yeah, and you definitely see the elements of like, okay, I see
Right,
where Scorsese got his got a look for Goodfellas, and like
right.
a lot of
Yeah,
like
as opposed to yeah, and I think Goodfellas is like the more refined version of this movie.
that you see like where the town, like Ben Affleck got some of his ideas for the town. I'm sure he watched this film,
Right,
so
right.
yeah, just kind of like an interesting look into the like kind of like at the like you said the first draft of the blue collar gangster film.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, just to close things out, for me, I was actually very impressed by the gun dealer character,
Oh yeah, Jack.
played by Stephen Keats.
That's right. Yeah,
Just like his just his savvy yeah, Jackie Brown is his character.
yeah,
But just his savvy in dealing with everybody, and like like the guy that was he went with to go get guns, and like made sure like that he didn't go, he didn't take his car up the hill.
that's smart.
Yeah, and made sure that they came down to him, and he had like the light in their eyes so that they couldn't like just you know uh, take
Amp.
shoot him and take his money. But then also, when he went to go meet with like those hippies that were looking for machine guns, and like he parked his car and it's like, oh, I'm not leaving until like every car here that I see that was here when I came leaves. Just
Yeah,
like kind of like making sure like no one was tailing him. And then I was initially, yeah, I just thought he was like like this floppy headed Muppet kind of character, but he was actually pretty impressive.
he might be outside of maybe like Dylan. He might be the smartest character in the film.
Yeah.
Which is
Right, and then like when Foley does bust him, he knows immediately
that
who
fucker.
narked on
Right?
him.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna get that fucker. He knew
Yeah,
he didn't even have to think twice about who ratted him out. He knew
yeah,
exactly who it was.
hmm
And I bet you that was like when that happened. He probably had contacts from like where he knows like where Eddie Coyle is at, and I think he was the one that kind of got that hit called on Eddie Coyle.
Mm.
That's my thinking.
Mm.
Because if he didn't, he maybe he even talked to Dylan. Like maybe that was his phone call. It's like, hey, your boy, ratted me out, and because that also led to the bank robbers getting busted too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, like once that happened, it's like, yeah, Eddie Coyle was fucked, and the
Yeah.
cop fucked him over too.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like it was just a matter of time before Eddie Coyle was whacked.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But that's the only thing.
I think all the characters did a great. I think all the actors did a great job. Um, it's a gritty '70s movie, so I like that part of it. Yeah, it just didn't quite hit all the. It's this is not a movie for everybody. It said this is actually one you do have to pay attention to the dialogue, and it's quick. You have to be on your feet while you're watching this movie.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's all I got to really say about the Friends of Eddie Coyle.
All right, let's give our rating, and we'll move on to the next topic.
Let's
Why don't you start us off?
let's see. Well, when I first watched it, I probably would have given this movie a 2, but I think I've grown to like it a lot more this second time around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna bump it up by a star. I'm gonna give it 3 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, like I said, I appreciate what they're doing and seeing how it kind of fits in our cinematic archaeology. I think it does deserve at least a watch, and especially if you're a Robert Mitchum fan, check it out. Like he's really good in it, and definitely not a he's not really the tough guy in this one. He's more of the he's not really a softy, but he's a paper tiger in a lot of ways in this film. Unlike a lot of the films that we've seen him in, where
Well,
he's
maybe
the
not a paper tiger, but he's he's a tiger that's long in the tooth. He's been doing this too long, and he never made like the right moves to like get him up to the next level. So he's like he's trapped in that
yeah
lower echelon.
everyone but him retired off to Florida.
He's exactly. He's stuck in like that lower echelon, and he wasn't able to make his move up into like the the managerial level or whatever.
Right.
Um, so
So a little bit of a different role for him too. So I kind of like that. So yeah, I would give it 3 stars. Check it out.
Okay. Yeah, you and me are simpatico. Because yeah, I'd give this a 3. Um. Yeah, like again, you know, this isn't a movie you absolutely must watch, but again, yeah, like you said, if you're a Robert Mitchum fan and you're a fan of kind of like the gritty aesthetic of like the 1970s like crime drama, then yeah, this might appeal to you.
I think this is a good kind of passing the torch of from the from the old style gangster films of that like Robert Mitchum kind of like was in the past, like the noir dramas and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, going into like what we know as like some of the more modern day gangster classics. This is kind of like that trans. This is like a transitionary film,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the '70s, so it's experimenting with some stuff, and some of those experiments don't work. But yeah, if you're a Robert Mitchum fan, check it out.
Mm-hmm. All right, there you go. That's our review for Friends of Eddie Coyle. Both Robert and I give this a 3. It's a movie to watch, if you're a fan of, you know, of gangster type flicks, and as well as Robert. If you're a Robert Mitchum fan and you're more of a completionist, so if you have to see every every single thing that he's ever been in, then yeah, go for it. But again,
Well,
not
checked it
you
off
know,
the list.
check, yeah. You can scratch it off your list. All right. Let's give a little break on reviews, and let's go into the topic that you wanted to talk about, and that is kind of an analysis, or I guess, yeah, an analysis of the parable of the which one was it again?
So there's the parable of the Pharisee and the sinner,
Right,
and
right, right.
also like like one of the uh, I I'm I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. I had it written down, but I don't have it in my notes. The where Jesus talks about like when you're doing good deeds or whatever, like not letting the left hand know what the right hand is doing, or
Right.
vice versa. And I wanted to connect that idea to modern day.
Okay. So it's
And
analysis and like meta analysis.
yeah, and that's really what when you study the Bible, that's kind of what you're trying to do. The idea is, yes, the Bible is old. And some of the ideas, it is something that can be used today, but we have to create a bridge from the past of like when this is written. We have to understand what was being said, interpreting that correctly, and then building that bridge from then to now. And that's what when you're looking at the Bible, that's what you have to do. And so I think that what we're going to talk about is kind of that same idea. And today we've been talking a lot about how these companies they want to express their virtue and tell us how much they care, right? And we've talked about how we're tired of all that because they don't care. But it's also that it happens in with politicians, both sides of the aisle, big corporations, and people in general. Like everyone wants to put stuff on Facebook and social media, whatever social media of your choice, and everyone's got to
Really,
like.
just quickly, it's just in the book Matthew. It's just title just the title is giving to the needy, and it's kind of teaching just before he gives the Lord's prayer.
Yes, that's right.
Just for context.
Yeah, no, thank you. I that's what I was. I had like the address in my notes, and I don't know what happened to my notes.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got moved, but yeah, that's and you have all these people that like, oh, we have to put up a video, or we have to do this, and we have to show how much we care. And I have to show that oh, so and so is going to get the credit for it, and we're aren't we so virtuous and nice and kind, when in reality, like, that's not the point. The point is you're doing something good, not for the sake of getting credit for it, but it's about like doing the right thing. It's helping that person out, and who cares if anybody knows about it? But we live in a society now where everyone wants the credit. They want the notoriety. They want the fame that comes from being good. And on the same in that same vein, you have a lot of people like in that parable of the Pharisee and the sinner, where you have these people who are a lot like the Pharisee, who are saying like, "Oh, thank God I'm not like, this this person over here who's
Tax
dirty and
collector.
sinful." Yeah, and that's these same people are acting like that. They think that they are so much better than the person that's sitting next to them, who is struggling, or doesn't have the same views as them, or oh, well, he was telling the truth, and he said something that, oh, like, this person got canceled, we got to throw that person away, and look how great I am. It's I I don't like living in that type of society. And I think,
Right.
especially, I mean, yeah, we do this podcast. We talk about a lot of things, but I'm not necessarily like looking for a pat on the back. Like we say a lot of controversial things, and some people don't like it, and that's okay. I don't really give a damn. And it's
Or
funny.
or will you get tone policed
Yeah,
or
I've been
language policed?
we went from I've had it from both sides of the spectrum. I've had like someone who's, I'm not sure if he's a Christian or not, but I had somebody who like essentially canceled out on a project that we were working on because of something that I said. And then at the very same vein, with the next week, I had people from the Christian community who hated me for saying something else. It's like, because, or not, it's not necessarily what I was saying, but it was how I was saying it. It's like,
Yes, or the
what?
words chosen
Yes.
to express oneself.
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of why I chose this topic. Just like, see, I do talk about the Bible, and I do know and the importance of taking it from the Bible, understanding it in its context, and then building a bridge from that context to today, and using a way to apply it today.
Mm-hmm.
And um, that's what I'm seeing in the world today. Is like it's these two this parable and the sayings of Jesus are coming to life today,
Mm-hmm.
and like we should heed those warnings, which we are not.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I don't know if
absolutely.
you have any thoughts on that too, Andy. I'm just I wanted to bring that up to kind of see have you get your thoughts on if you think I'm in the right place.
Right. Well, I mean, coming from a Christian context, uh, uh, according to the Bible, like not one person does any good apart from God, apart from Christ.
Right.
So it's like all these people who were feigning virtue, like, oh, look how good I am, and like they're not. They're like, if they're not doing it, for God, or in the name of Christ, then they're not doing any good at all. And I mean, and just objectively, they aren't doing any good, because what they're claiming to be doing in the name of goodness, or equity or inclusion or whatever, is actually is literal evil. You know, promoting that children be allowed to keep secrets from their parents, or allowed to make life altering decisions, before that they fully have a grasp of the situation and themselves, and really had the time to weigh out their consequences. I would categorize those things as
Yeah.
evil. And so, but because of what I believe, like, I at a certain point, God is going to give them exactly what they want, and they're going to be thrown out into the utter darkness, where there's the gnashing of teeth and all that stuff. God will eventually give you what you want. uh,
Right.
it's in the Bible. He's going to give you what you want. And you know and I think some people, they're starting to realize this, particularly in the when they start, they themselves, stray even a hair's breadth, away from, uh, the ideology, or the mindset of the of the current zeitgeist.
Yeah. And we kind of see this too, like when people think of Black Lives Matter as like this various uh, charity that is like, oh, we're just here to like help the victims of black
Police
uh,
brutality or whatever.
brutality, like, and all this stuff. And what it was a giant grift that a lot of people bought into. And what I mean, and this is unfortunate because the families that were like they were like, oh yeah, they're here to like they're the voice that we couldn't have, like, and so the the victims of like suppose of this police brutality, they're expecting to ride that wave. It's like, man, they're helping to raise money so that we can at least get some semblance of justice that we probably aren't going to get.
Hmm.
And what the reality was is that they didn't get anything, and it
Right.
was
I
the
mean,
bound like the top echelon of that group. It was a grift for them to get what several $1 million, millions of dollars that were just being paid right into their bank account, and that none of that was trickling down.
right. I mean,
Uh,
just recently, came out that Black Lives Matter, the group incorporated.
Filing for Chapter 11.
Yeah, they're going bankrupt. They're filing for
Yeah.
bankruptcy.
How does a movement go bankrupt? An ideology go
Yeah, and I
bankrupt,
mean, again, going back to the Bible, there's it's like you will know them by their fruits. You know,
which is nothing, and
which is
they're
nothing.
gonna
Which is like, yeah,
become.
what like name me the you know Black Lives Matter, childcare facility. Name me the Black Lives Matter credit union. That's in the impoverished inner city. Name me the Black Lives Matter college fund or whatever, or name me the Black Lives Matter um, uh, what is it donation that they gave to George Floyd's family, Freddie Gray's family. Um,
Yeah, where's the
or
building and loan like they have in It's a Wonderful Life for in the black community?
I know, right? It's in Tyrone's house, and it's in Shaquanda's crib. And, they're yeah, you will know them by their fruits, and like they have no fruits. Just like when Jesus he cursed the he cursed the fig tree because it was the season for figs, but there were no figs.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people have contention for that particular verse. He's like, oh, how could Jesus condemn a tree? It's like, well, it's like the deeper meaning. It's like, because it was the season for figs, and yet this particular tree wasn't producing figs when the time was appropriate for it to do figs. So it wasn't fulfilling its purpose, and so for that reason, Jesus condemned that tree. And it's just the same, because Black Lives Matter, they were not producing the fruit that I mean, they weren't producing the fruit that they were supposedly supposed to, and particularly in that season where they had everybody on their side. I mean, not people who were who were aware and knew what time it was,
A lot of
but
people were point in, like I said, it's a grift.
yeah, a lot of people, like, they had everything going for them. They had like the social and the political power, current going with them, and so that they if they did do good works, then people would have applaud them, and like they would have easily given more money to them.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I don't think that'd be a good idea. But again, like, then you could at least say, like, oh, look, at they opened up that credit union, in on Crenshaw, or they opened up that free child care center for working moms, and blah blah blah. And I could say, like, okay, they did those good things, you know.
And then it's like, okay, you know what? Like, I don't necessarily agree with their ideology per se, but the works are good works. They're doing good things,
Mhm.
and they are, doing what they are, helping out the people that they say that they're trying to help out. That's awesome, great. I think that's a great thing, and I wouldn't necessarily like give them money, but like I think that that's a great thing, and but that's not what they were doing,
Right.
and there's a lot of things like that where it's not about it's the I want to look as though I'm doing something good, and I want all the accolades that come with that, but I'm actually not going to do anything, and I'm just going to take the money and run, or I'm gonna take all this fame and run. And it's kind of like you're and it's just it's evil in a lot of ways.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we do live in a time where I think there are people who are charitable. They do care about people. They want to help out. And but the problem is that because of that, I think people lose sight. They're not smart when they think about that. What does this group actually do? And they don't look into it. And they're
Hmm.
just like, oh well, so and so, we're this organization, we do this, and we help raise awareness, and we do all. It's like, whoa, 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 yeah, and oh, that sounds great, and they write almost a blank check half the time. It's like, yeah, here you
Hmm.
go, and um, I'm not saying that, like, I think the heart is good, but I think we also need to be smart with like where we're putting that effort.
Hmm.
And I'm not, I you know what, I'm not blaming the people that get fooled.
Hmm.
Because their heart is in a good place. It's the people that are manipulating them that are evil. It's We talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it in the cast, but we definitely talked about it on the phone. Is in the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes, Jesus talks about there's that infamous passage about how, and a lot of Christians mistakenly think like, oh, it's about Christians, you can lose your salvation as a Christian. And because it's like you'll have people that will say, Lord, Lord, we did this in your name. And he said, like, oh, I never knew you. And they just look at that and, oh well, I guess Christians can lose their, it doesn't matter how good you are, you can lose your salvation. It's all really up to God. But what they're missing is the context of that, because the prior passages, he's talking about people who are, they're what we
Right.
would call them is grifters.
Right. Prior to that, those verses, he was talking about false teachers and people who will, who will say that that they are working in God's name, or or for the good of the kingdom,
Yeah,
but aren't.
yeah, they are kind of sailing on the fame of Jesus and like his name, yet they are promoting their own agenda in the kind of like, and using Christ's name to kind of promote that. And we definitely see a lot of the there's a lot of grifters at church. There's a lot of grifters that even for just like charitable organizations as a whole,
Hmm.
there's a lot of that goes on. And they tug at the heartstrings of people who are that they want to help out, they want to do these things,
Right. And
and
yeah,
they're
and they also appeal to. Okay, don't. I hope people don't get offended, but people's laziness, because they're like, oh yeah, send me, just, give me the money, and then I'll go in your stead, and I'll go and do these great works.
yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I know like there could be seasons where you're not necessarily supposed to go out, and you're supposed to give, and then so you allow someone else to go out. Yeah, that's fine, but there should be a season where you actually do go out. Particularly as a believer, you're not always meant to be, you're not always meant to be a sender. Maybe you're supposed to be a sent.
right. I also think of the story of the lady who ends up, she throws like two pennies into uh
It's a collection
into
plate.
the collection plate, and or the collection box.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that when that was occurring, like as people are going in there, like people would try to make as much noise as possible, like kind of the same idea we're talking about here, where
Yeah,
oh,
they're
oh, look
they're basically trying to make it hail. There's like they're dropping the coin, and
how much
like
in
it's like
there, yeah.
making a ring.
And then you have this like kind of old decrepit lady who is like, you hear this dink, and it's like everyone's like probably looking at her like, oh man, what a freaking loser. You know,
What a cheapskate.
yeah. But when God saw her, it's like that lady gave up like kind of when we what was it, in the Magnificent Seven? It's like, well, I've done a lot. I've done for a lot of money, for a lot of different things, but never everything. Well, that lady gave up everything she had to give to God. Like she, and that's kind of the idea. But like you have these people who are like trying to make themselves look awesome, but they're actually like giving out of their abundance. They don't. It's like a
Right.
drop in the bucket for them.
It's not hard for them to give up that money.
And I think there's times where when you do have a lot of money, which is great, if you've been blessed with abundance, I think sometimes giving, and you're busy, I think giving of your time, which is something you don't really have, is way more important. And vice versa, like when maybe you don't have as much money, maybe you're unemployed and you have a lot of time, and it's great that you might volunteer and give a lot of your time, but like when you do have like even a little bit of money,
Right.
it's
When you
like,
do
you
have
know
the
what?
means, yeah, then you should just go
And
ahead
I
and.
think like even if it's like $5, giving that to God, it's like, and you know what? $5 is kind of a big deal at that point. It's like same thing with Charles Bronson's character in The Magnificent Seven. It's like $20, $20. Well, $20 is a lot right now. Well, yeah, you know what? $20 when you don't really have any money, that's a big deal. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna give that to God, or I'm gonna give it to an organization that I believe in, and I think that's a big sacrifice too that God is going to bless, because that's the hard thing to do.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I don't know, I was kind of thinking about those few passages and kind of thinking about the world we live in today,
Hmm.
and yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it, see if you thought maybe I'm crazy, um, and yeah, I just thought it was kind of important to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, because we constantly see an irreligious world or irreligious people, and so but then they still attach themselves to ritual, but they have the ritual without the right. And I mean, and right in the terms uh, of a proper basis for the ritual. Because if they're only giving if they're only giving out of like their own ego or needing of to feel like that they're you know doing something worthwhile, it's ultimately hollow and an empty gesture. But if you're doing something for something bigger than yourself, like if you're doing it for God, then then that's ritual with the right.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually a story that I always really enjoy. Everyone knows I'm a NASCAR fan, and Dale Earnhardt was a driver, and one of like hundreds of stories that we heard after his death. But like one, he would constantly help people without like, it's like, don't tell anybody about this. He had that type of attitude, and I think like his church needed a new parking lot, and so he paid for everything, and he paved the parking lot himself. Like he brought his equipment and did that, and he told the pastors like, now if you tell anybody I did this, I'll come back and I'm gonna rip this whole thing up. It's like, uh, and it's stuff like that. That's the type of attitude we should have. And if people do recognize you for it, like, okay, great, but like that's that's not what you should be going after. It's about doing the right thing for the right thing's sake.
Right.
And like when you can help out, like where it doesn't, um, I think you should do it,
Right.
even though it might be kind of difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, to a lesser degree. I mean, I have a similar story, but to a lesser degree, because again, I help out at my church with the mobile shower ministry, I remember, one morning I was, handing out breakfast, and then, one of the guests was telling me, like, "Oh, Andy, you're such a nice person." And I was like, "Hey, hey, hey, don't let that get around."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you want to be known as the cold, heartless monster that doesn't like anybody.
I know. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't like, I don't, because also I don't want to get puffed up and just like, and again, I'm constantly trying to, humble myself. Like, I'm not doing this for accolades from these people. I'm ultimately doing it for, the kingdom. And so,
Yeah,
I'm always, so like, I'm joking, I'm joking when I say, hey, don't let that get around that I'm a nice guy. But, also it's like, it's a check on myself to like not allow myself to get puffed up and like, oh, look at these great works that I'm doing. It's like, no, 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 I'm not doing these great works so that, these people thank me. I'm doing this so that, God sees me.
right. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought we could talk about that, and I think it kind of blends into like our next topic that we're going to be talking about too, because it kind of deals the social commentary of the show we're going to talk about kind
Yeah.
of has a lot of that in there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right. Yeah, let's get into it. We're gonna do a review of season one of The Boys. If you don't know, The Boys is not Netflix, Amazon Studios original series based off the graphic novel, I believe, of the
Yeah,
same title. And it's a kind of a critique and satirical, I guess, commentary on the idea of like one superheroes, and then also kind of like uh, the machine that goes along with being a superhero.
yeah. It's funny. If you have superhero fatigue, go ahead and watch this because it
Yeah,
can.
this was a really good palate cleanser. For the whole like superhero, like the whole like yeah, again, as Robert was saying, like the whole superhero fatigue, because this isn't like the shiny like upstanding morals like superheroes, and like also it's like it also gets a wig of kind of like the goofy campiness of Marvel,
Yeah,
and also it's darker in a different way than like what we've been getting with like the DCEU.
yeah. This is one of those things where it's like a little bit of a mixture of like the super serum from like from like Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
and like what if you mix that with like the Sokovia Accords. Like this is kind of like if you're wanting like a parallel to like draw from like the Marvel universe,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
um, because later on we come to find out that a lot of these quote unquote superheroes
Yeah, the
are
soups.
they're essentially like they were people who were
Yeah,
tested.
they're not natural.
Yeah, they're taking steroids essentially
Essentially.
that permanently altered their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, give me your thoughts, Andy. What do you think of season one of The Boys? Like, what do you think of the characters? What do you think of like some of the commentary on society?
I really enjoyed the first season. I really enjoyed the characters. Uh, um, I really liked Butcher's character. He was really
Yeah,
fascinating to me. Um,
played by Carl Urban.
right, played by Carl Urban.
Yeah,
Um, I thought he was a really interesting character because he's someone who's like deeply affected by soups, as they're called in the universe. Um, but also he was like and he was a counterbalance to the new guy, Huey.
Yeah, Huey, played by Dennis Quaid's
Quaid's
son.
son, yeah, Jack Quaid, I believe it is.
Yeah,
Um, and I really enjoyed the kind of twist on like the whole soup. Like, I mean, ultimately these are takes on like the DC superheroes. So you have Homelander, who's like Superman.
yeah,
Uh, you have A Train, who's the Flash. You have Deep, who's Aquaman. You have Queen Maeve, who's obviously Wonder Woman.
yep.
And just kind of like the you get this, you see past the veneer, or the public face of these characters, and you see like the deeply flawed, and ultimately deeply human characters.
And I also like how they because they're and I think here's the other thing I think was really funny is that they're always constantly coming out with like a new movie on on the soups,
Right.
kind of similar to how like Marvel is constantly pumping out like film after film after film. But every time like they're like the public persona of all these guys, everything's like bright and like uh
Shiny.
shiny and nice and like, oh, it's like kind of that PR spin on things. It looks nice,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is that they are terrible human beings that have like there's this dark underbelly, the reality of
Mm-hmm.
that regular humans uh live under.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, literally what, 10 minutes into the first episode, A Train, the guy who, like, kind of is like the Flash type character, he runs through Huey's girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and like she explodes into
And a
just
pile of
visceral.
goo. Yeah.
God, that was it. If this is not for the faint of heart, like, this is a very
Yeah. This is a
grotesque
very
show.
grotesque and uh, what's that word I'm looking for? Gory and
Raunchy. It's
yeah, it's raunchy, graphic for sure.
Yeah, it does not hold back.
Yeah, it doesn't hold back, and it's just like in as well as the character of Huey, who we see is like the kind of like the inciting incident for all of this. But we also see kind of like the kind of like almost like American Idol esque, the pageantry of being a super like a soup, and like being brought into
Part
the
of the seven.
fold of
Yeah,
the team, which in that universe is called the Seven, because like there's seven like superheroes that make up the core team. They have like they have small. It's kind of like the Justice League, but like like, and like they have like the core seven, and then they have like associate members, but they're not privy to like living in like the tower, or
right.
or being part, or have like big marketing deals.
The it's also kind of like there's a little bit of Mission Impossible. Like, what we find out in this particular season is there's a little bit of Mission Impossible 2 in here, because you have this corporation that essentially is the one not really controlling the soups, but like they're the like the firm,
They're the handlers.
the handlers, is that they are creating supervillains that the superheroes can fight, and they're creating a problem, and like
Yeah,
they
it's a
have
Hegelian dialectic.
yeah, and that's kind
Problem
of like
solution.
yeah, which is like kind of the premise of Mission Impossible 2, and is also happening in reality today in our
Right.
with these pharmaceutical companies that are creating they're these diseases that they only have the cures to, and they make billions of dollars off of it,
Right.
which is kind of
Although
like
it would
what.
it should have been it should have been weird for them because the whole grift is that that superheroes occur naturally, but we find out that that's not the true. That there's this thing called compound V, and it's like and parents like basically sign up their kids at birth to receive these treatments, and then sooner or later, as they grow up, they'll eventually manifest powers.
Yeah, man, it's fucked
Um,
up.
yeah, and so yeah, so they try to play up the natural part as much as possible, even to the point of like bringing religion into it, and because there's a there's a an awful kind of like Christian movement. It's like, oh,
Capes
like
for Christ.
yeah, capes for Christ is
Oh
like
God,
yeah,
that's this is it's so corrupt. The whole thing is corrupt to
yeah.
beyond belief. It's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which
there's all
again,
these
like
like
that could be uh, uh, a meta commentary about like I mean, within the last 3 years, people constantly saying like, oh, like wear a mask or get a vaccine to to love thy neighbor,
yeah,
which is kind of like I think kind of I think I think this show came out just before the pandemic
but
and
yeah,
lockdowns, but it's not hard to see like it's like, oh yeah, oh soups, soups are are blessed by God,
yeah,
and it's your responsibility to to if you're a soup that you do good, you know. Although if I was in that universe, I would definitely think that why are there only super beings being born in America? Because as we find out, as we find out throughout the season, yeah, it's really like only in America that super beings are found.
right,
There's no super beings. There's no equivalent group or whatever in Europe or Asia or Africa. It's only in America, and then towards the end we find out it's due to the super steroids, and what is it the I guess the antagonist of the show Homelander, takes it upon himself because they're the corporate the basically the pharmaceutical company Vought is trying to get superheroes into the military, and so you know you can't really justify that unless there's a super
Bill,
response to that, and so
yeah,
Homelander with the help of A Train goes out and sends Compound V to like basically terrorist groups
yeah.
to create super terrorists.
God, it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
and
So
that's also
problem, reaction, solution.
to be honest. So I feel like that's something that's happening. Yeah, obviously it's not with like superheroes, but like the idea that we constantly like fund we call at a time there are allies, but we fund these countries, we give them weapons and training, and then all of a sudden they become our enemy like what 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
what
like
is it? The Mujahideen, the Al Qaeda, the Taliban. We funded them all,
yeah,
and
um
then like 20 years later they became our enemies.
it's just like constantly like feeding the beast of like this war.
Yeah, the military industrial complex.
Yeah, it's I think that I don't know if this is exactly what they were going for when they were creating this series, but damn if it doesn't really hit at like the head of all of this stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, again, Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, but but here's the other thing too about this. It's not, you know, I think there is a big message to it, but god damned if it isn't entertaining because I I went one night where I think it was like the next day I had off. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll watch the first episode, kind of check this out.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up watching the entire season that night because I was like, I couldn't turn away. It was so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just the characters, the like the complexity of like not only the bad guys but like our main characters and even them, like they're flawed people as well. Like Butcher is not. He has a lot of tragedy, but that he's not necessarily like the nicest person.
Right.
And
He's
he's
an asshole.
also, yeah, he's manipulative too in a lot of ways, just to get what he wants.
Yeah, he's a hypocrite. I mean,
yeah,
well, as we'll find out towards the end of season 3.
right. So, yeah, it's just it's certainly an interesting show. I'm kind of glad we talked about season 1. I'm obviously we meant to talk about it a couple weeks earlier, but well, we have season 4 coming up. I think later this year it's going to be coming out. So yeah, we'll talk about the other couple seasons. Talk about that a little bit leading up to season 4. And yeah, I really like this show. This is yeah, because I always worry about like a lot of these streaming platforms when they're coming out with their own stuff. You know, Netflix had some, you know, right at the beginning had some really interesting shows, and then the quality really dropped off. And I was worried about that too with like some of the, like I said, with Amazon and all these other places that have their own like original content. But this one, if you're gonna watch an Amazon original or something, go ahead and check this one out. This is really good stuff.
Indeed.
Especially if you're a superhero fan who has superhero fatigue, watch this. This
Yeah.
change.
Again, at the beginning, you know, Rob said that this was a palate cleanser for him, and it was. And it's like, you know, and it's like a lot of like this, you know, similar. Not tropes, but archetypes. There you go. A lot of the familiar superhero archetypes, but just you know, give it a little twist.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, particularly Homelander is like, Homelander is a really fascinating character.
Dude, he is a weird fucking dude, and the guy who plays him he's doing a fantastic job.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he's a Kiwi.
That guy's a good actor.
Yeah, he's a Kiwi.
Yeah.
So
the Kiwis are taking our jobs, dude. Our acting.
They took our jobs. But yeah, Homelander's a fascinating character, and like he's so complex and nuanced. I know you hate that word, but in this case, it's accurate.
Him and Butcher are two sides of the same coin.
Right. You know, because Homelander was a product of his upbringing, which, you know, basically like, you know, kind of like sterile, like lab rat, and Butcher, you know, comes from an abusive household.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, kind of like abuse in different ways, but creating the same type of asshole.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Well, we both recommend checking out The Boys. The seasons are actually really short. They're only like 8 episodes, and yeah, so you can get through them in a few days.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I criticize like streaming shows is that they're too they're too short. And I wish maybe not go back to like the old format of like 24 episodes, but maybe stretching it out to 16 episodes, just so like you could have like, you know, episodes where it's like there's, you know, it's not necessarily like, you know, it's more episodic and like able to you know, maybe flesh out characters a little bit more.
I can see. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like because like the whole like, you know, love story between Huey and
Starlight.
Yeah, Starlight. It was just like, it was so fast, and like how he got over, you know, his girlfriend Robin so quickly too. It was a little jarring.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Like, where, yeah, you would think that like there should have been like something that maybe something a little bit more there.
Yeah, or I mean, I know they did the thing where he was on the date with Starlight, and like they inserted Robin to like emphasize like his conflict with within himself, because like he's not necessarily trying to actually date Starlight. He's using her as like kind of like a CIA agent would try to flip an asset.
Right, right.
But he's still having that conflict, and that's good. But I wish there was like more of like that conflict, as like has his starts developing feelings for Starlight, and like and have a little bit more of like that wrestling between like oh, like his love still for his deceased girlfriend Robin, but also his like budding attraction for Starlight.
I think they do attempt in like the next 2 seasons. They do attempt to do a little bit more of like background look at some of our main characters and like some or like important characters in the story.
Right.
I think too, because I think that might have been like something that like a lot of people talked about. Like, okay, well, we can't do any more episodes, like, but we can maybe like work in the idea of let's get some background on some of these like characters. Right. And like why are they like, especially like we see a little bit of Homelander's background. Mm-hmm. We see some of Butcher's background. Mm-hmm. We see and so like some of the characters that we care about and like or like they
Stand by. Okay, connected. Successful. Okay. Yeah, that was my end. The internet kind of hiccup there for a second. Backtrack about 20 seconds.
Oh, what I was saying is like I think they attempt to address your critique as far as like going into the background of some of these characters that that we really care about and like why they are the way they are. Mm-hmm. And it's not perfect, but I think they do. They at least make an attempt.
Yeah, I can give them that. But again, I think it could. I think like these streaming like series, I think they could stand more natural development as opposed to like just getting like these 8 to 10 episodes out and then having to dedicate half of the next season to like do more character development and and then eat up more, and then we actually get less of like the of the story in the next season.
So okay, I see what you're saying. Okay,
so again, like not having to go back to like the normal format of 24 episodes a season, but maybe even just doing like 16 episodes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but yeah, this is still a fun series. I would recommend only if you have a strong constitution, because it does get pretty graphic. If you're not merely just like the violence, but also like the sexuality and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you don't like that stuff, don't watch this.
Yeah, I mean, but unless you have like the discipline to like fast forward through all of like the sexy scenes,
there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of
them. And they're all fucking weird.
Yeah, because it's like it's like superpowered beings having sex.
Oh God, like the stuff with like Homelander and Elizabeth Shue's character is fucking freaky. Oh my God. Or like the weird like superhero pervert club.
Yeah. Or in season 3, a hero-gasm, just basically a bacchanalia for like superpowered people.
God. That is probably the most disgusting episode. Oh my God, it's so gross.
Pretty much, yeah.
Woo! Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But then again, like I would think that either the superhero sex club or the hero-gasm would be kind of superfluous.
Yeah, they're.
Yeah, I mean, I know the superhero sex club, that's more of like an everyday sort of thing, but then the hero-gasm, that's more of an annual thing. But it's just like
that's their Bonnaroo, I guess.
Yeah, or their Lollapalooza.
Yeah. Jesus.
But yeah, like
Um,
either or both of them are like superfluous to each other.
yeah.
But
Well,
so yeah, that's our review of The Boys season 1. Yeah, again, as Robert said, this was this is definitely a good a palate cleanser. You know, if you're kind of weary of kind of the offerings by the big studios. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, check it out on Amazon Prime. I believe it's free right now.
Yes, it is. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it right now at no cost.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, okay. That's the end of our planned topics of discussion. So yeah, let's end out tonight with our review of Out of the Past to wrap up Mitchum May.
All right, let's do it.
All right, I'll hit you all with a synopsis and we'll get going. Out of the Past from 1947. Uh, Here it is. The quiet life of small-town gas station owner Jeff Bailey is interrupted when a figure from his shady past, small-time crook Joe Stefanos, recognizes him. Stefanos' boss, crooked gambler Whit Sterling, had hired Jeff to track down Kathy Moffat, a girlfriend who shot Whit and made off with $40,000 of his. Jeff and Kathy fall in love, but she left him to get back to Sterling, who now wants Jeff to settle a few old scores.
Yeah, there is a lot of shitty characters in this film.
Yes. Agreed.
This is also, obviously this is Mitchum May, but another figure of favorite figure of ours, Kirk Douglas, makes an appearance. I think this is his first. There's something with him, like this is one of his first big roles, actually. As far as like him being a semi-leading man, and they. What was it?
Right, he's a supporting character, but
yeah, he's a supporting character, but it's like one of his bigger roles. The was it? Oh, here's the other thing. Yeah, so Kirk Douglas, this is only his third credited screen performance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is pretty early in his career, and they didn't work. And Mitchum and Kirk Douglas didn't work together again until 1967. So 20 years after this, in a western called The Way West. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's pretty good. Do you want to know who was initially considered for the lead role before Robert Mitchum?
Do tell.
So you might remember John Garfield from The Postman Always Rings Twice. Yeah, he was considered for the role, as well as Dick Powell. Now, Dick Powell was his claim to fame is he was famed detective Philip Marlowe. Like, so he played a lot of these like kind of like noir. He was kind of like this noir private investigator, which is kind of like I don't know if I wouldn't consider it like a serial, but like it's kind of like that. He's like a pulp icon. Like he's just kind of like he's one of those like your Perry Masons or you're kind of like that type of thing where he's just kind of that was his claim to fame, and but they ended up settling on Robert Mitchum, and I think that was the right choice, for this film. But was this your first time watching Out of the Past?
Yes.
So I'm just giving you all these like first time watches, aren't I?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Did you like the film?
I did like the film.
Yeah, I remember actually the first time I watched this, I did maybe I was either like too tired or I wasn't like paying attention, this is also another film where you have to kind of be paying attention to what's going on because it does move at a very interesting pace.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like the first, I would say maybe what third of the film, it's all narration from Robert Mitchum's character, kind of talking about what happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and obviously, all these characters from that past, it's coming out of the past. They've
Mm-hmm.
come back,
Right.
and he has to deal with them again. And uh, yeah, it's kind of like I don't think this is as good as another noir thriller that we'll talk about at some point. Like, I still think Double Indemnity is the best one done,
Mm-hmm.
but this is certainly up there. Like, because Jane Greer's character,
Mm-hmm.
she's just as manipulative and terrible. Like, she is
Mm-hmm.
a good femme fatale in
Yeah,
this,
for sure.
and like, you never really know. I don't know. Like, do you think there was ever a point like where she actually gave a damn about um what's Robert Mitchum's character name in this is
Jeff.
Jeff Markham? Do you think that she ever cared about him, or was it all about kind of trying to get away from Wit? Or like and to be honest, I don't even know if her and Wit, I don't know if like they were always a thing. It was just kind of this weird up and down thing, and Markham just happened to get caught in the middle.
No, I don't think she ever like deep down cared for him. I think that she saw that he was a way to get away from Wit, and she took it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like she is just pardon my language, she's a manipulative bitch. Yeah, it's just she, she is fucking terrible.
Yeah,
And that's good on the actress because she plays. Oh man, she plays that up, big time.
yeah, she hot, but she's a bitch.
She's first of all, she lied. Like, oh no, yeah, I did shoot him, and like honestly, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that want to shoot Wit. That makes
Hmm.
sense,
Right.
but I didn't steal the money, and
Until Jeff saw the bank book.
I think that's where it's like, oh, you lied to me the entire time, and I think that's where he like cut ties with her. He's like, well,
Hmm.
fuck this, like
Yeah.
and he got out of town, and I don't know. Does it ever really mention like how long he had kind of after the events of like with him and
Yeah, at the
with
cabin. Yeah, with his old partner.
yeah, the cabin, like with Kathy and Jeff, like do we know how long it had been since he had seen them?
No, but enough time would have had to have passed so that he can go and set up this new life. In this new small town. You know.
You think maybe it was like maybe a couple years?
Let's say at the earliest 5, and at the tail end, let's say 7.
Okay, but yeah, so he gets discovered again, and I think Wit is wanting. Yeah, that's the other like person I can't quite get a grasp on either. Like, what exactly what is like Wit's goal? Like, because initially he wants Jeff to find Kathy,
Mm-hmm.
and he ends up getting, obviously Jeff gets manipulated, and she's attractive, so you get distracted easily. So
Mm-hmm.
he ends up falling for Kathy and wanting to protect her, and I think he knows that Wit kind of is no good. But then, what exactly? Why? Other than like, is it just the money that Wit wants, or do you think that he wants to have control over Kathy?
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's more about control than it is about the money
I
because
see.
because she I think because I think he does view her kind of like as a trophy, and so and because she is very attractive, it's like it's a status thing, and so if he could have her and then also control her, then all the better for Wit.
And so the second go around, like for like the last 2/3 of the film, is Wit's goal just to get back at Jeff, or like does he feel like that Jeff owes him one for kind of failing to deliver
Or
on?
just obviously just trying to put one over on him.
Mm,
Yeah, I think Wit is I do think Wit is a petty man, but he's not petty. He's a calculated petty.
yeah, and we talk about like Robert Mitchum playing a good bad guy, a good
Hmm.
heavy. The other guy that plays a great heavy is Kirk Douglas.
Oh,
Yeah,
I loved him in this role. He was great.
he's great. Yeah, he's
He's
so good.
absolutely great. I'm totally sold on this idea of him being like this menacing gangster gambler type.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously we have seen him in like we did Ace in the Hole not that
Hmm.
long ago, and yeah, he's also a great bad guy in that. But this
Hmm.
is, this is being his third film. God damn, like he steals the show
Hmm.
almost. Like he's a great antagonist to Robert Mitchum's character
Right.
in
Yeah. Just
Jeff.
like the back and forth that he was having with him at the hotel in Mexico. It's like that was great. I loved it.
Yeah, and
Like
I love in the way.
he was filling out, Jeff, and Jeff was trying to hide and play cool, but and I mean ultimately Jeff was able to get over one on him, but he's just the kind of cat and mouse game that they were playing was just so great.
I mean, the way that Wit like looks and he talks, like he's like a snake. He
Hmm.
just it's so smooth
Hmm.
and calculated, but like it's menacing at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like
he's
if you,
threatening without being threatening.
yeah, yeah, it's like it's scary in a different way.
Hmm.
Like it's like, oh man,
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's something that that came to me when I was watching it is this is a man of violence, but he's not a particularly violent man.
ooh, that's a great way to put it. I like that.
Yeah, because he's the kind of guy that wields violence. Like he doesn't we he doesn't he wields it like a tool, and he only applies violence when absolutely necessary.
Yeah, he gets his justice like through, I think, not like yeah, not in a violent way, but like he finds other ways to manipulate and torture people into doing what he wants them to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a great manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, the other thing too, because obviously then this job that Wit puts him on at the end, or for like the rest of the movie, is about, and it's this convoluted plot of they're gonna try to frame Jeff for killing this. What the hell is the guy's name? The
Yeah.
Leonard Eels is
Mm-hmm.
the guy's name, and he had some paperwork on him. It
Yeah,
was
it's
like it was about a
some tax documents.
yeah, some tax documents that would be bad for Wit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are planning on killing this guy. And this is where like violence when necessary for Wit. Like cuz
Mm-hmm.
this guy has the documents I need. If he's not going to give them to me, I'm going to take it by force.
Mm-hmm.
And so they create this plot like for Jeff to kind of get those documents from Eels, but Jeff knows that they're going to kill this guy and he warns him,
Mm-hmm.
and he tries to do this thing like where he's trying to sidestep Wit and like try to get ahead of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And he does fail in a sense because they do kill eels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do end up
But
killing them.
he does get one over on them because he gets the documents, he beats them to the documents, and he hides the body.
Mm-hmm.
And now because they have set it up for Jeff to be the fall guy in this scenario.
Right.
And they but he's like, okay, well, I have the documents, so I have leverage over them, and I know where the body is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, they're freaking out on that. And this is where was it Jane Greer's character and Kathy gets back involved too, because and this is where I think we start to see that like I think that she's involved too, because she's part of this plot, and I think she's a willing participant in this plot.
Right.
But being the manipulator that she is, she knows how dangerous Wit is, and once Jeff starts to gain that leverage back and gain the power back, she switches sides. So she's always gonna switch to the more powerful side, and like
Right.
who can protect her.
Yeah, the better deal.
Yeah, and so it switches to the point where Jeff becomes the better deal, and like she works that charm again, and he, in trying to help her escape. And to be honest, I don't think that Jeff was going to try to help her escape. I think there was something where he was going to I think he was going to sell all these guys out, and because he wanted to be with that other girl that he had been with at the gas station. He wanted that life
in the small town, Bridgeport.
Yeah, and I think once they got to that police barricade, I think that's when Kathy knew the jig was up, and that's why she shoots him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got that too, because I know when I first watched this, I was like, what is happening? But I think this time around, I think she realized that Jeff was going to sell them all down the river. And that's when...
well, I don't necessarily think that he was, but this was the only play that he had left. When it got to where, like, Kathy kills Wit, and she makes him, like, the offers, like, oh, like, I only want to be with you, and da-da-da-da. I think him in notifying the authorities was his only move that he had to play. But I think initially he was trying to create a situation so that that he could get Wit off his back.
Yeah.
And so I think so that he could Wit could get what he wants, and then he could make basically make it up to Wit for kind of running away with his girl. And so right. He could be forgiven, and then and so that they could then go their separate ways, and then he can go back to his new life with his new girl Anne. But again, because Kathy comes in and mucks everything up, he has no choice but to play his last card.
Yeah. Well, and the other character we got to talk about too is the mute. He doesn't
have a name. They just call him the Kid.
The Kid, yeah. He because he ends up kind of protecting Jeff too, because he ends up killing Stefanos, who's trying to kill him over at at the gorge. He ends up catching his fish line and kind of dragging him to his death.
Yeah.
But
I gotta say, that's one of the most creative deaths I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was. It was great. You fished the guy to death. Yeah, but I think he also, I think he was trying to protect Jeff, and the girl's name was Anne, wasn't it?
Yeah, Anne.
Is that? Yeah. And he. The Kid was trying to kind of keep them together and protect them, and unfortunately he did fail. And as because Jeff and Kathy both die in the car,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and when it came time, like when Anne asked him, like, was he going away with her? He lied, saying that, like, and he just shakes his head yes, so that she could kind of go
Right,
off
so
and
she could
live.
have closure. Yeah, so she could have closure, and she could move on with her life. Potentially with like the sheriff guy.
Yeah, and this is not a happy ending.
No.
Uh, the past came and bit Jeff Markham in his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously we want him to go away with the girl and live happily ever after, but it's like what is usually the case with these films. It's not a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, Jake, it's Chinatown. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it. This kind of that type of ending. It's just it's and the great noir thrillers, a lot of them end up that way.
Yeah.
Double Indemnity is also a
Yeah.
fucked
Yeah.
up
Sunset
ending.
Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, another one. Jeez, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm actually getting ready to, at some point down the line, I'm going to end up re-reviewing that film for uh, another thing.
Mm.
But yeah, that's what I like about these films is, we always people give not when we look back at like old movies, they give a knock to, like, oh, there was always the happy ending, the guy gets the girl, blah blah. It's like, what movies are you watching? Because I watch Out of the Past, like that is not a happy ending. I've watched Double Indemnity, I've watched Sunset Boulevard, I've watched Seven Samurai. Like, these are not happy films. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
end very sadly.
Mm-hmm.
There's no winners,
Yeah. There's no
and like
happy
the
ending.
character,
There's no riding off into the sunset.
yeah, it's messed up. Um, but yeah, I really like this film a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have any other thoughts on the film before we wrap it up?
Um, yeah. No. That's all I got.
Well, why don't you give this time, you give your rating first. What do you think of this? What would you give this film?
I'd give this movie a 4.
Oh man, I think we are on the same page today. Because yeah, this is definitely better than the Friends of Eddie Coyle.
Uh-huh.
Um, of Yeah, I would say I give it a 4 too. Why do you give it a 4, Andy?
I just think this is a really good movie. Again, I'm kind of like dinging it for, and it's also actually a gorgeous movie. Just like the shots of like the Sierra Mountain ranges and stuff. In Northern California. It's a really good movie. But so nothing really technical. It's just um I just
It's just like the little things.
it's the little things. Um, yeah, I'm not sure I can quantify. I don't know. It was kind of weird that he was constantly wearing his overcoat.
I always like, is it winter? Is that like
Yeah,
what,
because
or
it's
is
like
it?
yeah, like when he was like hiding, and the kid was like kind of like standing guard. He was out in the bush and he was like wearing his overcoat.
Would
This is
is that
small. This is small dings, but yeah, it's like
is it maybe like because I mean that is kind of like the noir uniform.
I get yeah, overcoat, hat, yeah, I guess.
I will say that is a trope of these films. Like there is always an overcoat worn by
Yeah,
like the character.
right.
Um, yeah, it's.
Oh, and the kid kind of like it's like he's supposed to be deaf and dumb, but like
I
there's
don't think
some
he's dumb. I think he's just like he's
dumb.
deaf.
No, dumb in the fact that he can't speak.
Yeah,
That's
that doesn't mean he's.
in the old timey way of that usage of that word, deaf and dumb. Dumb meaning that he just can't
Yeah.
talk.
He's
Um,
retarded.
yeah, so he's retarded. I know, but like he's supposed to be deaf, but like there are certain times where he's like clearly responding to sound, and so
Yeah, like I said, I think he's just like mute. Like he can hear, he just can't speak and we
right,
don't really
right,
know the
yeah,
reason as to why.
right. So he might not be deaf, but he's definitely dumb. And again, dumb in the
Antiquated sense, yeah.
antiquated sense. Yeah, they just can't talk.
Um, well, before we wrap up Mitchum May, the films that we've talked about this month, do you have one that you like above the others? Like, do you have a favorite?
Um, I th- I think River of No Return I like the most, and
Okay,
but I like this. I like Out of the Past, but I think I like it as much as Robert Mitchum does a really good job. I think I also like it because of Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas makes this film like
Yeah.
even better.
Hmm.
Because what we did, River of No Return. Obviously, we did Friends of Eddie Coyle and Out of the Past today. What was the
Hmm.
second film that we did? God, it was only a couple weeks ago, and I fucking forgetful.
I don't know. 1 second.
We were supposed to do Heaven Knows Mr. Allison, but we're gonna
Yeah.
save that for a different theme month. Look.
Let's see. Why is everything running so slowly?
I don't know.
At least on my end. El Dorado. El Dorado
Ah,
is good too.
El Dorado. That's right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which is really more of a John Wayne film, not necessarily. Like, Robert Mitchum is like he is
Yeah,
in
he's
it,
in
but
it.
yeah, I would say I kind of agree with you. I think River of No Return of the ones we've done this month, River of No Return is the best Robert Mitchum film.
Mm-hmm.
But like Out of the Past, like I think that's his probably his best noir film because he's been in a bunch of those.
Right.
Um, now I think outside of River of No Return, these roles of Robert Mitchum pale in comparison to him playing the bad guy, like especially in Cape Fear and Night of the Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Those films, like that's really where he shines as an actor.
Agreed.
As we talked about in our previous reviews of those films. But yeah, I would say River of No Return is my favorite that we've done this month. Just really great stuff. And the guy's been in like 150 films. Like, I mean, there's so many to take a look at, and just he's also a really interesting guy. I would recommend checking out his. I don't know if it's an autobiography or it was a biography that was done on him, but it's really fascinating stuff and just an interesting guy, an interesting actor. And
Yeah, no
of
one
course
plays a
we have
bad guy quite like Robert Mitchum.
yeah, Kirk Douglas comes close.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas comes close.
Very close.
But yeah. So yeah, for those reasons, I give it a 4.
Yeah.
Why do you give it a 4?
Oh, I give it a 4. Just like I said, this is a great noir thriller. It's like I said, it has a lot of the tropes that like the overcoat. There's a few things that are a little hokey, but as far as like our main cast, like with Mitchum, Kirk Douglas, Jane Greer, they really give a rock solid performance. But like I said, it's just a bunch of like the little things. Maybe like because you never really know some of the motivation behind some things, which is fine. Like I would have. Yeah, it's just like a few of the little things that I can't pinpoint, and
Right,
it's
it's
a
kind of hard
great
to
movie.
quantify, but we know that this isn't a perfect movie.
Yeah, like there's flaws. It's not but
Yeah,
they're
they're just so
hard. Yeah,
they're
like
so
you're.
ticky tacky that it just.
Yeah. Like I said, if I was whenever we get to Double Indemnity, already like spoiler, this is a 5-star film, and once we see it, you'll see kind of. I think you'll see like what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because that film is to me is a perfect film.
Mm.
So I think we said Sunset Boulevard. I think we gave that a 5 too, and like that's a
Yeah,
film
that's
that's
also a
near.
really good movie.
Yeah, and it just does like that, like a little extra that this film doesn't do. But
Mm.
this is considered one of the great Mitchum classics, and so we had to talk about it.
Mm. Indeed. All right, folks, there you have it. That's our review for Out of the Past. Again, finishing off our Mitchum May. Both Robert and I gave it a 4. Definitely a movie to watch. Would recommend. And do yourself a favor and check it out. If not even for Robert Mitchum, but for Kirk Douglas's awesome performance.
Yeah, he does a great job,
He does a really good job as the bad guy, like a
and
really like cold, calculating bad guy.
oh yeah, and we got another great theme month for next month. We're going to be doing villain protagonist month next month. So
Mm.
we are our main character is the villain of the movie, a la when we did Sword of Doom. So I think that'll be kind of a fun month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we will. I don't know. What should we start with? I know I gave us some choices. I was thinking we should probably start with maybe a face in the crowd.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. We were gonna do that, but we switched it out with something else.
Yeah,
I'm literally looking forward to that, just because it's Andy Griffith as the bad guy.
yeah, dude, he is he is really fucking awful. And so if you think you're going to be watching the Andy Griffith show, this is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
that, man.
Andy
You're gonna
Taylor and Opie and Aunt
you're
B and cousin Barney. No.
no, 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 no. And it's also kind of in that similar vein of like what we've been talking about with like the boys. Like there's a lot of the boys in a face in the crowd.
Mm. All right,
So
looking forward to that.
yeah. So there we go.
Okay.
That's we're gonna jump off that. So go ahead, tune out from us. Go watch a face in the crowd, and come back next week to see your thoughts on it.
All right. All right, there you have it, folks. That's our stream for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
It's nice not talking to a black screen.
I know those 2 weeks must have been killer for you. If you enjoyed our stream, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. Circular Dirt's main podcast, of course, the most recent episode dropped where we review the movie Golem with friend of the podcast, Dan the Man.
Oh, it's a great episode too. I think
It's
you
really
guys are
yeah, it's a
gonna.
really good episode. So do check it out. Of course, previous episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's Gaming Show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to check out our social medias, Twitter and Letterboxd. I'm gonna go with Letterboxd now.
Okay, all right.
Letterboxd at Podcast COJ and Instagram at Circular Turns Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good one.
Alrighty.
Have a good one.